hello. My name is Riley Wilkerson, and I'm a music features writer for Mxdwn. And today I'm joined with Matt Pike, Matz and Coady Willis from High on Fire. How are you guys all doing today?
Good.
All right. So I'll go ahead and get started and, jump right in. So you guys recently got back from, an extensive European tour this summer. You performed multiple headlining shows and even festivals, esteemed festivals such as Copenhagen, Resurrection, and you even headlined the last day of Sonic Blast in Portugal. Do you have any specific memorable times from your past summer?
Well, going backwards, Sonic Blast was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
Oh,
looking
there
at
you are.
comments from. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I saw Jeff for a moment.
Oh, he came up now. He popped up.
For a second, I think it's when he talks. No big deal. Like, keep going with the questions.
Yeah, So, yeah, I mean, the entire summer run was pretty amazing. Played a lot of great festivals. So first time doing the main stage at Hellfest, that was pretty cool.
Wow.
That was a really good one. Resurrection Festival was pretty insane. One of the craziest audience responses I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, the lights at that place were like, it goes like over the whole tent, and it has like fake flames, and they look real, and like it's crazy.
That was in Belgium at the at that Grass Pop.
Oh,
the Crazy
I thought
Flames.
That was Resurrection. Pardon me.
Yeah, that was another good one. There's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a crazy summer. I was actually over in Europe for like 2.5 months total. I didn't come home in between our main Europe run and the Sonic Blast Fest. I ended up hanging out in Istanbul for like 3 weeks and then popped over to Portugal, and my wife and I did a little holiday there before the festival. So yeah, I was like, I kind of became European for a little while.
Was it a big culture shock coming back to the US?
I mean, I'm pretty used to the back and forth at this point, but
yeah. Jeff's a secret Turkish gangster. He's got stuff over there,
secret doings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things about Istanbul and Portugal. Those are both on my bucket list. I would love to visit those places in my life. And yeah, I bet it's a pretty surreal experience, being able to headline a festival and play at the main stage at Hellfest. That's got to be an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, I was surprised at the lunchtime crowd. I think we played at like 12:05, and that there were so many people there. It was like, I don't know, like 30,000 people or something in front of us, like right when we went on. And it wasn't like that 10 minutes before. I was like, whoa, dude, that's a trip. So it went really well. It's cool.
Yeah, I was looking at the comments on all of those festivals, on their Instagrams, and everyone was saying that your guys' set was amazing. It just like completely rocked their world. The energy was there, the crowd was there. That's just got to be great to perform to festivals like that. And 30,000 people, that's a lot of people.
Or I'm not sure, I didn't count, but it was like a sea of people at 12 noon. And yeah, and festivals they don't always go that smoothly. I think this run went really smooth because I don't know, I think we have a good set or something. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can happen on a stage that big that it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking even after how long you've been doing shows for? That's crazy.
Well, we've showed up to ones and like there was no monitors because we didn't ask for them. And you know what I mean? Weird stuff like that can happen, like
go sideways, especially on big festivals where, sometimes you're not using your own equipment, or, you're not, it's not your own monitor engineer. Yeah, things can definitely go sideways,
yeah.
But we were really lucky this time around. Everything went really smoothly for the most part.
Yeah, the term throw and go comes to mind.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I have heard a lot of artists say that, especially with big festivals, the logistics get really hard to make sure everything can go smoothly. But I'm really glad to hear it went smoothly for all of your festival shows. That's great news. And So you all also recently, back in April, released your latest studio album, Cometh The Storm. Congratulations on that. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's the first record with you, Coady, on drums. How do you, and as your producer of the album, Kurt Value stated, it's really interesting whenever a lineup changes in the band, it's this opportunity to reinvigorate. How do you think, or, Coady or any of you, how do you think your introduction, really invigorated High on Fire with this record? Mhm. Mhm.
That guy fucking crushed it.
Yeah, you
Very
did
good.
definitely crush it. Mhm.
Thanks. Well, I mean, it's a situation, where it's like, this is it. You kind of have to commit, and I've known these guys a long time, and in different bands. I've been on tour with these guys, and I've been a fan of the band for a long time. So it was cool to get to, and playing music and playing the older songs. I kind of got a feel for. There's just different feel things that happen in this band that are different than other bands I've been in. So I was glad that I got to do some tours and play some shows and kind of get a feel for the energy and like how the groove and the anti-groove and everything that happens in all the different songs. So I felt like by the time we got to when it was time to write and time to record this, I kind of had a feel from where the band was coming from, and I was able to kind of like put my own flavor on it without changing the feel of the band, and in keeping with the spirit of the songs that came before, and in keeping with the spirit of the albums that came before, trying to give respect to all that and push the band forward, but still play like, I mean, try as I might, it's still going to sound like me when it happens. So I was just trying to serve the feeling of the songs and make sure that it sounded like High on Fire as much as I was able to make it sound like High on Fire. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did perfect on that. Yeah, I would say I feel like it really did bring almost like, I feel like the drums is one of the things that really stuck out to me, other than you completely shredding it, Matt. I think the
Oh, no,
drums
I'm not egotistical like that. I just
No.
do my part. And I was going to say the same thing. It's like Coady just being himself made him fit in perfectly because he was just being himself. That's what this band is. It's, an expression of awkward heaviness, and at times really melodic and groovy heaviness. So
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
I thought the drums really stood out in this record too. It was amazing. And I really did think it kind of brought a new, not, I was gonna say, because it's not like it hasn't been there before, but it did bring a little bit of a more, I feel like a different energy towards the album that I feel, fans really liked too, critics really liked. I feel like that's another thing too that was popping out in a lot of the research I was doing, was everyone talking about how your drumming, Coady, really brought some more energy to this album that people were really into.
That's great. And I got to give Kurt Blue credit too, because we did spend a lot of time. I think we spent like 3 days dialing in the drums and getting the drums sounding right, and choosing microphones, switching out microphones, making sure the drums were tuned right. And he's really good at what he does, and he really let me play like I play, and he tailored the production to my style of drumming, and I think it's a testament to how good he is, and his skills as a producer to he wasn't trying to like hammer everything into a mold. He kind of like listened and figured out what was happening and tailored the production to that. And it came out sounding great. And I'm grateful to him for letting me be myself and letting me play like I play, and making it sound really cool. So he did a really great job.
Yeah, and that's really
he
the
kind of,
hallmark of a great. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
oh no, it's okay. I was going to say he kind of just lets it happen, and he's meticulous in the aftermath. Like he's super meticulous after it's formed itself. You know what I mean? It's like he adds all the finishing touches, and he's full of ideas. So to give him credit to where credit's due from me.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's really the hallmark of a great producer, I feel, is someone, who doesn't try to overshadow you, but just somehow knows how to bring out those your natural elements in the studio and making music, and someone who can not only help bring that out, but amplify it and just let you all be, yeah, like your great musical selves. I feel like that really is the hallmark of a great producer. I was gonna ask you all, I was going to ask a question about Kurt and how, you know, you think his producing skills really able to help make this album go. Is there anything else that you think, you know, he brought to this record that would have been missing without him on there?
Certainly in terms of song arrangements and just, you know, helping us kind of streamline things. He played a big hand in that. You know, definitely, you know, there were some points where we were sort of running into roadblocks with, you know, like, God, did the song need another part? You know, what, like, where should we go from here? You know, he offered a lot of ideas in those regards that helped us kind of, you know, kind of make the songs leaner and meaner, so to speak.
Sometimes that's such a valuable asset to have in the studio too, is like this outside ear where, you know, we work on these songs really hard and we you become kind of emotionally attached after a while and you're like, oh, I really like this part. And then, you know, you get into the studio and you need someone to be like, this part doesn't really work, you know, or
The demo love.
you're like, no, I worked so hard on that. And then, but you need that to happen and someone to be like, no, actually, this is going to make it better if you do this. And to be able to say that without any emotion or any, you know, emotional attachment to all the time you put into working that. And you're like, oh yeah, he's right. It is better this way. So it's really nice to have that outside opinion where, you know, you can look at it objectively and make these decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. I always get demo love. I'll like 3 or 4 things that I just do not want to change. And even if I try to do them again, like say I improv like a super awesome solo, or I did something with my voice and I can't do it again, it kind of drives me nuts. That's kind of what Cody's talking about. You're like, dude, I like that so much. Why can't it? You know what I mean? Why isn't it natural enough to sound the same? You know, that's a thing you can run into.
Yeah, you spend so much time listening to the working recordings, you know, just like demos of the tunes. And yeah, you get super attached to like certain elements of it, like little aspects, you know, like tempos, you know, like Matt was saying, like little, you know, specific solo bits or licks. And yeah, it's like if you can't recreate it, sometimes it's like it feels a little disappointing at first, but typically, you know, you learn to live with it and love the finished product.
Yeah.
When you're
it's
making
like, do I
demos,
want to overdo it, or do I, you know, and split a bunch of hairs, or do I want it just natural, and am I not doing enough? All the questions, you know, all the questions.
it's fun
with creativity.
when you're demoing the songs too, when they're being written for the first time, and it's kind of the funnest part for me because it's anything goes, you know, it's like it's the first time you're hearing the song come to life, and it's the first time it becomes what it's going to be, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, this is a song. And so when you hear that for the first time, it's really fun. And yeah, it's easy to get attached to that. And then then there's the next step of taking that and making it into what it really needs to be and refining it. So being able to let go of some of those things is important.
Yeah, there's a psychology to it all its own, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think over here on like the writing world side, what they have like a whole phrase for it. I think it's called "kill your darlings." Yeah, and it's supposed to be, you know, you have your habits as a writer that you usually like and add into a lot of your stuff, and then your editor gets it and they're like, you got to get rid of this. Like you've done this same writing tool a million times. So good to know that it goes across all the industries, and that they're just as ruthless in cutting out, you know, and it is, you know, you are attached to it and you look back later and you're like, they had the right. Yeah, they were right. Yeah, and then isn't this your 5th time working with Kurt too on your albums?
The 5th one.
Seems like it. Let's see.
I like that answer. It seems like it.
Like
it seems like it.
Yeah, definitely the hallmark of a great producer then, you know, if you keep coming back, and even if he's able to, you know, work with your catalog for that long, I feel like he definitely knows your sound and how to bring that out of you and what the best direction to go is.
Yeah, he's got that with us for sure.
He definitely understands the band and how we want to be represented on album. He's a, you know, and I think that on this album, this is my favorite sounding album that he's done with us. He
Oh, by
just keeps
far.
getting better and better.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great working relationship, you have with him. And, speaking of, you think this is your best sounding album with him, Cometh The Storm is your 9th studio album, which is a really, really impressive number. How did making this album differ other than just Coady being introduced into the lineup? How did this differ from your previous albums, either the actual process of writing it or even just your perspective coming into writing this one?
Personalities, new knowledge. Jeff has been studying the saws. I think a lot of the Turkish music, which I was influenced by before, but not like Jeff, went and studied properly. I think a lot of that ended up really influencing the songwriting on this, which Jeff wrote a good abundance of the music, and I think it came out in a lot of his riffs and stuff, which I thought was really cool because it's a direction. Sometimes you've been playing so long, you get stuck. You're like, I don't know what to do and not sound the same, And I think he brought that to the table if he wants to elaborate.
Yeah, it was definitely a big influence on the stuff that I brought for the album. But yeah, I mean, I think, the biggest factor for me was having Coady involved, the writing process and, having his personality and enthusiasm and work ethic. That was really huge for, just how these songs came together and the overall vibe of the album. I feel like, having his, sort of like, it's really different, writing with different musicians, it tends to bring out different ideas in everybody, so like the kind of riffs that we were coming up with jamming with Coady are somewhat different than when say the riffs that we would come up with playing with Dez.
Yeah. You can kind of picture, like, once one drummer or another musician like that, you can kind of picture it in your head when you have an idea how they'd play it, like who you're taking it to. Like, if you can get that mental picture in your head, it tends to like flow really good if you're thinking about them as an individual musician. You know what I mean? It's not such a tribal kind of thing. It's more of a individual take on things, I don't know. I'm getting too complicated. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I don't. I feel like that makes perfect sense. I mean, I feel like especially with I feel like bands who have been playing for as long as you, or even just, you go all being such professional musicians for so long. I feel like that is the hallmark of being that, is being able to work as together as like a unit rather than just we're all individual musicians. And I just feel like when you do that and it comes together, it's very seamless. But yeah, and then I was going to say, bringing it back to, I did know about the Turkish influences on this album, especially with, your instrumental 5th track. Pardon me if I don't pronounce this the best, but Karanlık Yol.
Karanlık
So
Yol.
how did you find yourself, being inspired by that? And, how did you like get to that place? I know you said also, Matt, that you had explored that a little bit too in your earlier works.
Well, I think it just came out that way. It kind of had that similar sound as, Middle Eastern Turkish music. And I happen to be kind of Turkish. I had a Turkish grandma. So I don't know if it's DNA or not, but Jeff went down the rabbit hole with it and really got good at it. And I was like, dude, I'm all into it. So it's not something that I opposed for sure.
I've been interested in that kind of music since like around 2006 when I first started with High on Fire. I had a friend of ours, Rich Doucette, played in the band Secret Chiefs 3. He turned me on to a lot of different kinds of folk music, like Turkish, Persian, Indian classical music. But yeah, so like the Turkish influence, I really kind of latched onto early on. A lot of the music that I've written for High on Fire has had that influence, but I really dove into it in 2019 and started studying formally with a teacher in Istanbul. So yeah, just, did a bunch of online lessons during the pandemic. I've traveled to Istanbul a couple of times to study face-to-face with various teachers there. But yeah, it's oh, sorry, got other messages coming in.
Yeah.
um, um, but yeah, I mean, so that influence has been around for a while. You know, there's an instrumental track on Death Is This Communion called Conrad's Wall that was sort of my first foray into incorporating those kind of influences into what we do. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, more solidified on this last album. And yeah, the instrumental track, that's sort of my attempt at, you know, writing like something in the style of like an Anatolian folk dance or something, but you know, mixed with heavy elements as well. But yeah, it's all over the place. You know, a lot of the riffs that I wrote on guitar, you know, the heavy stuff, you know, there's, you know, I'm pulling from a lot of those scales that I've learned, you know, studying the traditional tunes, and you know, different like little phrasings and things. It's kind of just found its way into my musical DNA.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
really good for heavy music, you know? It like mixes right in there.
Yeah, I was saying it was like, it seems like such a what is it? It seems like it's such an opposite pairing, but when it's together, yeah, it actually sounds really well. It meshes like perfectly, and you wouldn't think it would go together. I feel like, you know, from the outside, you wouldn't think that that would be a pairing that would make sense, but it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that hit me early on, you know, listening to this stuff. I was like, God, this is like heavy in a weird way. You know, it's even just, you know, no distorted electric guitars or anything. There's like a certain like rhythmic thrust behind it, and you know, just a lot of the note choices. Like this is like not too far removed from metal in some ways.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
think that an observation about a lot of the instruments, they kind of already sound electric, just the way they resonate. It sounds like electricity's going through them, even though they're being played acoustically. I've always noticed that about that. I thought was really cool about that music. So
Yeah, I've never, oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, the saz or the balama, which is the instrument that I play, has a really kind of buzzy, just really kind of like, it sounds kind of aggressive for an acoustic instrument, which I really like. It's like almost has like a natural distortion to it. It's interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had never thought of those instruments like that, about sounding electric almost with acoustic, but now that you say it, I totally see that, and I can totally hear that too. And you're right, like it is like a buzz, and that's exactly the right word for it. You know, and I think it's also really interesting that, you know, you're still like learning and going to Istanbul and like learning these different musics. I feel like, you know, a lot sometimes musicians, I feel, just let themselves get, you know, stuck in a box of, you know, like what they're used to play and what they're good at. And I feel like to be able to go and learn different things, and, you know, to learn from teachers in Istanbul, like that just shows how, you know, great I feel like it is to continue to change and, you know, make this band what it is. It's really interesting.
well,
Yeah, and you know,
Thank you.
yeah. And, you know, so like speaking of, you know, continuing and experimenting, and I think Matt, you spoke on it earlier, how when you play music for so long, sometimes it does get repetitive and it gets hard to kind of break out of maybe patterns and sounds that you're used to. You know, how do you guys approach, you know, trying to continue to like blend your signature sound that your fans, you know, kind of expect from you, while experimenting with new musical concepts and letting your creativity go?
well, I would have to say a lot of my better riffs in my whole career have come from me being a ridiculous, like trying to make people laugh in the room, like trying to make my band laugh. Like, dude, we should have a riff like this, and it's totally absurd, and then it like turns into this crazy song. And some of the better stuff was just taking a chance on like being ridiculous and trying to make your friend laugh. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm an asshole for playing this riff because it's absurd, you know. Part of it, at least from my side of things. Those are some of the better things I've come up with.
I agree. Like you know, some of the, you know, when you're not trying to write something amazing, you know, it's like that's sometimes when the best stuff comes out. You know, when you're just, you know, casually just playing something or just being silly, you know, it's yeah. It's funny
Yeah,
how that
totally.
works.
A
But
lot of good things come with fucking off and just jamming. Space Jam.
I
Always-
feel like it's, yeah, especially with music too. Yeah, I feel like, all the times I feel like I've written my best music, all my friends wrote their best music. It is when you're just messing around or you write something that, you're not expecting to take it as far as it goes. And it just turns out to be, yeah, some of the best stuff you've ever wrote.
I'll always remember to fuck around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so what do you guys think that, incorporating these different elements and, fucking around, what do you guys think that adds to your music? Your overall influence, importance, what do you think it adds? Or, even just your band as a concept?
Well, anything that sounds written now didn't start that way. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, try not to overthink it. It's try to keep it somewhat natural. I feel is it, that's sort of my take on it, my approach. And like sometimes, write things and it's like, it'll hit me like, oh, this is like something that'll be great for High on Fire. Or, other times it's like, yeah, that's, this is cool, but, maybe it could work. And then, we'll try things out. There's always like a certain kind of set of parameters that I sort of like think about when writing stuff for this band. It's like, it's still good. Like I think it's really cool to expand and push the boundaries, but it still has to like, there's a certain aesthetic that it has to fit within. You know what I mean?
Meat and potatoes. You have to be a carnivore. Not really. That's completely untrue. Yeah.
One of the things we did while writing this record that I thought was cool, that kind of helped, I think, bring some different flavors into it, is we would do different writing sessions and kind of break off into pairs. So it'd be like some of the songs we pulled from this like riff vault that Matt and Jeff had written together. And then we would do a session where it was just Jeff and I writing and coming up with riffs. And then we did a session where it was just Matt and I writing and coming up with riffs, and kind of like bringing all these different, it kind of gave everybody a chance to develop that chemistry a little bit and bring it back into the group again. And, again, like with that, there's always one person in the group who has a set of fresh ears listening to this riff that the other two came up with and being like, well, maybe we should try this. And so, but I thought it kind of like helped bring a different palette of flavors into the record. So it wasn't, all the songs weren't written us together in the same room, but they were finished that way. But I think it kind of let some different flavors into the mix.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, because I do feel like, especially when I talk to a lot of group bands, they do write a lot of their albums communally, all in the same room, as you said. So that is really interesting, and I feel like it does help to keep things fresh, and especially even just among your members, among the band itself, not even new members.
Yeah.
And sometimes it offers like surprise, check it out, this is what we did today. And then I'll hear it at home and be all, holy fuck, dude, that's like awesome. Now I want to like go and learn it. It's like, it's exciting.
And I feel like, yeah, and then that's how you guys keep inspiring each other as artists and keep moving forward. And I feel like, yeah, it's really nice to hear. And, like looking towards the future, are there any, like other genres or directions you guys kind of want to explore and, thinking about incorporating into music in the future?
Cuban high energy all the way. No, I'll just keep to like what I know, and I'll try to learn things. Or sometimes I go back and like relearn like Iron Maiden or a Randy Rhoads song, or we'll learn a cover or something, which inspires some of us like writing original material by doing covers. Sometimes that's a good way to get back into it, because you remember your roots, from a writer's aspect, like looking for a specific.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of hard, obviously, to plan for the future when you're, you don't know what you're inspired by yet.
Yeah, things inevitably come along that hit you in a certain way and influence you. I think a lot of times the influences that find their way into the music are not like conscious necessarily. It's just things that sort of, you know, find their way into your vocabulary through osmosis. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think Coady, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you stated how, you know, you all are fans of each other's, you know, other bands, and how, you know, Coady, you said you were a fan of High on Fire by itself, you know, for years before you joined. You know, how do you guys think your different musical endeavors influence your work when it comes to working together on High on Fire?
I found
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay. I've just found that like sometimes it's you're saying earlier, you get, you know, you get into one gear, you get into one mode, and sometimes you can kind of get stuck there. Sometimes it's just hard to see outside of that bubble. You know what I mean? So for me, like being able to like go and play in a different band, and every band I've ever played in, like the physicality of it, like how it's totally different, like just the tempo of the songs, the style. I end up using like different muscles for each different band I play in. So sometimes it's really nice to be able to just kind of like step outside of that bubble for a minute and hit a different gear. And then when you come back to it, it feels both new and familiar at the same time, but you kind of have an outsider's perspective or an outside perspective of it's like, well, we're not doing it like this, we're doing it this way. And I don't know, it's great for me because it cross-pollination is always good, I think, and being able to both pull different ideas and also disregard different things as I know this isn't going to work. I know this isn't going to fit here, but maybe this, you know, it's just a new perspective on, you know, different ideas, and just being able to step outside of that instead of always having it being in the same thing all the time. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I could definitely see that, and being able to just, you know, like diversify your talents and just being able to feel like, yeah, step aside. Because I feel like when you do get, especially when it comes to writing or performing, you do get stuck in that bubble. So to be able to exit that, and, you know, also like we were talking about, gain inspiration, you know, playing with other musicians and other styles of music can, yeah, what did you say? Cross-pollination is a really good word for it.
Well, I also found like getting older too. I've found that there's a real art to certain things don't flourish when you strangle them to death. You know what I mean? And there's a really art to like sometimes an idea for it to happen. Like we were saying before, like sometimes the best things you do are doing it when you're not really trying it, and be able to like, if something's not working or whatever your approach is not happening with this idea, being able to like put it down just for a second and focus on something else and just let it be. Sometimes those problems take care of themselves, you know. Sometimes you set it aside, put it on the back burner for a second, and when you come back to it, you see it in a new way, or you're not. But sometimes laser focusing on something and overcooking it and really trying to like strangle the life out of it isn't the answer. So, you know, so being able to have an idea and you're hammering away and you're hammering away and it's not happening, just being able to like set it down just for a second, go on it, bounce to something else, and then come back to it. And sometimes it works wonders. You know, you just come back to it with a fresh mind, and you come back to it and you're not just so entrenched in it that you're losing perspective.
Yeah, totally. I am a victim of that definitely as well. I totally understand what
It's
you
really,
mean.
you want to get there so bad, you know, you want to, so especially when you can just taste it, like you can see it at the finish line and you're like almost there, and like the desire to like push and push and push to get there it's hard to resist. But yeah, sometimes it's just way easier just to like stop, walk away for a second and come back, and there it is. It just presents itself.
Yeah. You got to like let it breathe and think about it for a while, and then come back and be all, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you figure it out not being anywhere near your instrument. And then you want to like go find your instrument because you thought of it. You're like, I hope I don't forget this. So you end up humming it like a dummy in your phone. But yeah, it's refining it, you know?
Yeah.
For
Do you
example,
guys have oh, sorry, you go ahead, Jeff.
there's one particular piece on the latest album that we've had around since like 2010 or so, and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the tough guy riff. You know, it's like we've had this thing around forever. You know, great riff, like always tried to find a home for it, tried to figure out how to incorporate that into a song. And it just like, yeah, we would always just run into dead ends. You know, we'd always try to force fit it with different things. And it just like, you know, it's never happening. So we just like kind of forgot about it for quite a number of years actually. And it finally saw the light of day on this new album, you know, like
Yeah, that was great.
you know,
That was one
Yeah,
of those
that's
ridiculous jokes that I was talking about.
yeah,
That
there
riff
you
was a
go.
ridiculous joke. Like we were talking about picking up cigarette butts and stirring the gumbo, you know, and doing that thing. And yeah, just to elaborate on that, that made me really happy. That made the album, and Jeff too. That's
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome for that song to be able to find a home, what, like 14 years later. And yeah, I feel like that just goes to show that, you know, sometimes it's not always, yeah, like what you're doing, it's just the time. And sometimes things might need more time to evolve, especially when it comes to art and music. Mhm. Mhm. But yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of, you know, some of your guys' greatest songs, I have to ask, you know, you won a Grammy back in 2019 for your song Electric Messiah, you know, a moment that I feel like only so many musicians dream of achieving. You know, how did it feel to win that, especially in a category that's so hard to break through?
um. Well, for me,
Mhm.
um, the approach I took is Lemmy had. I mean, I had that song around and was just jamming it like a D beat song, you know, and Jeff was jumping in, and it was kind of one of those things we didn't know where it was going to go yet. After Lemmy died, I had this weird dream, I wrote a bunch of lyrics for it. So I know how the singing goes on that. And
Mhm.
that kind of made that song come together pretty quickly. Like we got together in one practice and it just like kind of fell from the sky. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
Jeff had this riff, opening riff, and I had been fucking with the D beat thing, so they just kind of connected. And I think once Lemmy died and I completed the lyrics, it like came together like overnight. So it was kind of a weird, strange Lemmy's ghost kind of story, you know. All
Mhm.
respect, you know, with that.
Yeah,
That
no, it was, oh,
that verse
go for
riff
it.
is the verse riff is another example of, you know, something happening when you're not even when you're trying to just like make somebody laugh. That was like me like trying to play just like a ridiculous, like we called it the insect attack riff. We're just like what the hell is that? We were laughing about it, and then it's like, you know, that becomes part of a song. You know, it's
Totally.
pretty funny. But
Insect workout with Lemmy.
that was the working title of
It
Electric
was.
Messiah, the song Electric Messiah. Yeah.
I actually wanted to name it that really bad.
Insect. Yeah, it's just three riffs. The opening riff, Des workout riff, the insect attack riff, and the Lemmy riff. So it became insect workout with Lemmy. But yeah, that was
So
a
what
very strange to win a Grammy for a song that was once titled that.
Yeah, I was
Very.
gonna say that's great, and it's crazy. Yeah, I like congratulations on the Grammy again. That's a great award to be able to win. And especially for, you know, a song that I feel like, yeah, that's came together from making your bandmates laugh. I'm learning a lot that apparently you just need to make, you know, go into the studio with the intention of trying to make your bandmates laugh.
It works
But yeah.
sometimes. What can I say?
Well, when you guys finished that song, you know, you said you wrote it in a day. Did you have a feeling it was going to be career changing? Did you have any, you know, inclination that you thought that that's what was going to happen? Mhm.
Be honest with you, that's the last song on that album that I thought would get that kind of acclaim. There was a lot of other epic shit on that album that, you know, that's a lot more serious. And yeah, it's kind of head trip.
Yeah, pretty wild. I mean, honestly, the whole Grammy thing just caught us completely off guard. You know, I, you know, I personally, I never saw us even being in the running for a Grammy at any point. So it was pretty wild, you know, when we got the notification that we'd been nominated. what the hell? How's
Yeah.
this happening?
Ironically, I think Motorhead, when they got their nomination, ironically, I think they were taken back like that too. They're like, "What the fuck?" Okay, whatever. If I recall,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I would, that has to be a pretty surreal moment. I feel like, especially for, metal musicians, I don't think a lot of them are going into it with the intention of getting a Grammy. You do it for your love of music. And that's, yeah, I don't feel like that's really the category people go for if they're trying to win a Grammy. But yeah, I can't help but notice, that the Oakland Bay Area that you all are from, it's always been a pretty, big musical hub. But I feel even currently, it especially has a really booming metal and hardcore scene. What was that scene like when you were coming on first coming on the scene? And, how do you think it compares to the evolution it's seen today?
I don't know. Jeff, you want to elaborate?
I mean, yeah, geez. You want to take this one, Matt, since you were
Sure.
there first?
Yeah. Well,
I was kind of a
think it's
latecomer.
just because it was such like, part of it's a ghetto and it's very blue collar, and there's an overall like kind of, you have to be careful how you carry yourself in that town. There's an overall like tough guy thing to it. There's a gang thing to it. And there's a punk and metal thing to it. If you're from Oakland or even San Francisco in the day, there's just this overwhelming sense of kind of, you're gonna work really hard to like have an apartment. You're gonna dig ditches. So if you're fortunate enough to have a cool band, you go and take it out on your instrument, which might be, a little bit of anger, a little bit of violence on your instrument, but you get it out in a positive manner. I think a lot of the bands that came from the Bay Area were that and politically charged from seeing poverty from, rich and poor, like right next to each other. I think a lot of places that are like that have a really good music scene because there's a lot to sing about and a lot of experience, So, yeah, place is pretty rough, but it's fucking beautiful too if you can make it through it.
Yeah, no, exactly. All of that. And especially you're so right about, seeing there is just such that disparity, I feel like so visible in that area, being so close to San Francisco where, yeah, it's like $3,000 for a 600 foot or 600 square foot apartment. Yeah. And you're right. I think it totally does lend to just artists, yeah, having a lot to talk about, having lots of emotions and, wanting to make that like living, just being able to live. And I feel like especially when you start to be able to make a living off of your work, you're going to want to take that and you're going to want to go for and put all of your energy into it. Yeah. Do you have any advice for maybe, like up and coming bands from that area that, want to make it as much as you guys have?
Stick to your guns and be yourself and don't accept no for an answer. And hey, if someone doesn't hand you something, go get it,
Yeah, I feel like that part is so important, especially in the music industry. When you see so many, or you get so many no's in your life, you really just have to keep going and, yeah, not accept no for an answer. And if no one wants, your sound or your band, you just have to carve that space for yourself. And yeah, I feel like really a lot of it is just not taking no for an answer. Yeah, I was gonna say, so, as one of the most influential metal bands to come out of that area, how do you hope, High on Fire's legacy will be within the community and beyond? Is there anything in particular you're hoping it's remembered for?
Well, I don't know if no one's gonna take that. Just respect from our peers, and I would want them to like learn from us. You know what I mean? Learn from that sound. That sound came from Oakland because it's a cross between like D-beat, Slayer and thrash metal, doom, It's got all those elements, and there's also stuff taken from like, you know, those Turkish roots or classical or blues. We try to incorporate everything, and we kind of get away with everything somehow. Probably because we overthink it, but overthinking's good because you figure out how to do it, you know, and hopefully bands could look up to us or at least respect us and learn from what we've been through before them being old guys and all, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that it is especially, you know, looking towards the future. I feel like, you know, a lot of these younger bands, I think, do, you know, look up to you, especially the guitar riffs. You know, I feel, especially like when I'm trying to, you know, learn more complicated riffs, I always turn to your guys's to make sure, you know, still I'm not there quite yet, but I definitely try.
Well, hopefully you're probably pretty good. Like if you figured them out, you know. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I only have one more for you all today, but you know, you're set to start your North American headliner tour this fall, you know, with support from Weed Eater, Exhumed, and Negative Approach. Is there anything, you know, you're most looking forward to, or can you give Mxdwn and your fans any hints at what to expect for these upcoming shows?
They're going to be good. I've toured with Weed Eater before, and I love Negative Approach.
Good.
John Brandon, scariest voice in rock music. The show should be great. Great dudes, really good bands. I think the vibe is going to be really fun and high energy, and I am looking forward to it. So if nothing else, I'm going to have a good time. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you all today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. You know, I know you guys have a super busy schedule right now.
Yeah, we got to leave tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
So
That's why I was like,
we're all
yeah.
going to be packing, and we have to run the set one more time today. But we'll get it done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck on your rehearsals, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to try to make it out to one of you guys' shows on the East Coast. So hopefully I'll see, you know, you guys live soon.
Yeah, please come
Right on.
introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Riley.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
See you guys in a minute.
Bye.